I started filming a little late in the process, so this might be out of order, but I have a dumb terminal, which is connected to my machine through serial, because I wanted the feeling of typing on a CRT terminal again. I haven't had in years. So issue is the terminal, just like a normal computer, has some battery-backed memory. And with this, it controls the emulation mode, in this case VT220, baud rate 9600 again in this case, and 8N1 parity, data bits, everything else. All the configuration settings are stored by battery. So I went ahead and pulled this terminal apart. This is a Wyse55. And I was looking for a battery. So when you take the chassis apart, you see, here's the rear, right here. And so I lift off the top, and I'm like, where's the battery, where's the battery? And you probably already see it right here. So it was below the tube. So I had to de-energize the HT lead, and then detach the tube itself, and then the yoke attaches here, the deflection yoke. Detach all the CRT components, and then get down to the board. I got this on eBay, and somebody had like spray painted the entire chassis white. I'm not going to complain because it's clean looking on the outside. It actually looks really nice and white, but I would have preferred retro bright or something. So anyhow, I'm going to desolder this battery, and I'm going to solder in some leads and put a CR2032 in there. I'm going to check the voltage on it before I pull it out. I'm sure it's got a label on it somewhere, but right now what I've done is I've unscrewed the two screws here holding the board in place, and I've used my little iFixit kit. Ooh, this is attached to a screw to undo the two I don't know what to call these, the nuts that for the port. So there was screw, the nuts for tying in your giant serial port. Anyhow, now that that's done, the entire thing looks like it's held in here, so it should be able to just slide out. That's going to take a bit more force. So I'll go ahead and stop the video. But I'm going to slide this board out, and then we'll work on desoldering that battery and soldering the replacement, and then probably clean it up while we're at it too. I guess at Wyse they decided to hide an extra screw, so there is one hiding on the WY55 terminal right here by the flyback transformer. So I will be undoing that, and then the whole thing should slide right out. And I'll just do it on video here, one-handed. I've already discharged the flyback and the tube straight to ground with a resistor, and then straight through the terminal. If you've never worked on CRTs before, you probably shouldn't be pulling one of these apart, just FYI. So that should be that. I'll go ahead and slide this board out, and we'll work on desoldering. So that was entertaining. The way you have to remove this board is you actually have to undo these clips on the side. So you push these guys to the side, and then the board lifts and pulls out. So what I ended up doing on this side, there was a piece of plastic on this one to increase rigidity, which I'm not shipping this anywhere, and it will live in my basement forever. What I did is I took my pliers here and I busted off a little backing support on that so I could flex it easier. I'm too worried about the plastic being brittle at its age to really try to tweak the whole chassis to support one little clip coming undone. So I modified that clip, and I was able to undo it then, and I took the iFixit kit little metal spudge here and went around, and I used it to spudge these as I lifted out each corner, right? So it worked pretty well. Board is obviously here in front of me, and now there is something kind of interesting. So this says rebuilt by SL, whoever SL is, and it has a date on it. It says 3/10/11. So I'm looking at the board. It's obviously been repainted. This thing's been redone by somebody. I don't know much about the eBay seller who was selling it. It worked fine for me when I was testing it, but as I'm looking here on the bottom side, interesting things of note. I'm going to try to set it here where we can see it. Sorry, apologize for the camera work. You look, that flyback transformer has been replaced, and not in the most attractive of ways. It's kind of been soldered in there, and there's all kinds of flux on the board still. And then it looks like there's on the right side here, we've got some charring where there's a heat sink for a transistor. And then there's some glue on a component for some reason. And there's also a titanium cap that's been added in here, and so I'm not sure why that capacitor's been bodged in. And it looks like it's been added in too. Either way, I'm going to go through, I'm going to clean this board pretty thoroughly, so I'll come back. Two things. If I find the guy who used this much flux and didn't clean it off, I'm going to slap him. The wash bottle of isopropyl is doing better than the contact cleaner was at getting it off. And then over here, these guys are kind of kissing when they shouldn't be. If we go to the back side, you'll see there's a resistor that looks mighty toasty right there. So, oh, come on, focus. R109. His banding's almost completely gone, so we're gonna replace Mr. Burned resistor. He was working. This appears to be part of the flyback driver circuit. So this here has these two leads, and these go to the primary winding of the flyback on the other side, I guess. There's thick silicone cables going over there. So, kind of weird. I normally see a flyback driver circuit all over here. I'm not used to having stuff go across the board with silicone cables. Maybe that's normal. Not something I usually see, but I'm usually touching TVs, so... Anyhow, I'm going to finish cleaning this board up, and there's all kinds of white schmoo up here. Contact cleaner made it show up, but that's like, yeah, nice and gross. So I'm going to hit it with the isopropyl and get that shined up. So I got my Heiko snips here, my flush cutters, and I'm going across the board now, and I'm trimming down these massively long leads they've left out of the back of the board. Why that short occurred in the first place is because somebody didn't trim. I mean, look at this. It's insane. So I'm going to go through the board and trim. You can see, I think, over here I've already done some trimming, this corner specifically. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to trim this whole thing. Like, look at this. Why? Why in God's name would you manufacture something this way? It's obvious this was mass-produced and 0 Fs were given, so I will continue trimming. Oh, by the way, that's how it ended up cleaning up. Isopropyl can only do so much, and most of the schmoo is gone. I didn't get all of it off, but looks a heck of a lot better in that corner at least. So, and oh, down here too. That's where a bunch of that white schmoo was. It's gone now. So, to clipping I shall go. Safety glasses are a must, by the way. I'm beginning to think this board was repaired by a drunk. I'm up here trimming all of the IC pins. These were not soldered in by me, but do you see that guy right there with no solder? Right here? Just hanging out in the breeze there. And additionally, some of these look like really cold joints. Like here, up top. Not sure what's going on there. I mean, it's just really piss poor solder job. Well, she damn sure ain't going to win a beauty contest, but there is 2 75 ohm resistors placed in there to replace the burned up ones. I've added hot snot on all the leads to give them some strain relief. And then I pulled out the battery. It had no voltage. It was dead. And I don't have a flying lead battery of that caliber, so I had a toy battery holder, and I actually left the leads too long. I just whacked it in there. So they're soldered and glued in, and then I just put a little dab here. I don't know. I'll probably never open this thing up again and clean it, but I don't care at this point. So I just kind of tied the extra, tacked it down, and then this spot was all a bunch of Zener diodes, and there's just an empty, it's the only empty-ish spot I could find on the board to hold the battery holder. If I had to, I could just peel it off. It's just hot glue. But deal with this here. This is the only low voltage side of the board. This is the data side. You've got power supply here, the high tension assembly running the flyback driver basically. And then you've got controls for brightness and all this stuff over here. So it's all mainly high voltage up here on the side of the board. All the low voltage stuff is here. And the yoke driver should be somewhere in this area, because that's where the leads are coming off here, actually, I guess. But point being, though, that I'm trying to stay as far away as I can as the high tension stuff. So this kind of like goes underneath, runs over to here. I didn't want this near anything high voltage. So yeah, so that's, you know, pretty nasty. Again, somebody spray painted the entire chassis, so there's just white paint all inside everything. But if I turn it over now, so I get some good light on the back of this board here. I'm going to turn off Mr. Soldering Iron. But there's just nothing I can do about the burns. And then whatever the schmoo is on the board, I have no idea. But, I mean, it ain't broke sort of thing. I ain't going to try to fix it. Cleaned up quite a bit. Got a lot of the flux off that was on there. You can tell now, and I've snipped so I can run my finger on this. It's sharp, but it's not got freaking leads flying off. You can actually see it's not half as bad as it was. It's a lot more trimmed. Definitely all the ICs had massive... Oh, I missed some. Oh, well. Still an improvement from what it was. So we're going to go put this thing back together and see if she flies or if she smokes. Alright, so this time I've taken the HT lead and I'm kind of rotated it around so it's not down in near the board. So I've got it curled around, and then got the yoke leads not tied up with the HT lead. That all looks normal. And then battery, of course, is now underneath the gun control there, underneath the electron gun wires. But the overall looks pretty clean. I mean, it is what it is. So I guess I'll power it on now, and we'll see if the smoke comes out. Oh, when reassembling this, if you take it apart, the board, there's a wedge of plastic, and the board goes between the plastic and this base piece. Got me clean my hands now. So anyhow, let me go ahead and get this thing powered up and see what happens. All right, moment of truth here. Oh, no display yet. All right, I need to do... Hold on, it's a weird key combination. Control Shift... Or is it, it's Control F5, sorry, Control F5 Select up here. And then that reinitializes it and clears errors. There is no refresh rate on my side. It looks... Or no flicker on my side. So I hit the... Is it Control Setup, I think? Not fun to do one-handed. Anyhow, I'll be able to set this up now, and I should be able to get it running. Let's see if I can get terminal emulation going. Yep. So it's Shift Select to enter the Shift and Select to enter the configuration menu, and we're going to go. Let's see if I get closer. If it'll. It's still not terrible, but I guess. All right, 80 lines by 24. Yeah, we're going classic here. Wyse55. I think not, sir. We're doing VT200 as the good Lord intended it. 8-bit, please. Enhanced keys. Yeah, I want that. Status line. Do not need. Do not care. Wrap into the line. Recognize. Delete. Yeah, sure. Yes, I'd like you to recognize. Delete. And carriage return is carriage return. We're not running Windows here. We don't need CRLR. Carriage return. Oh, CRLF. Yeah. Key click, no, I do not want to hear that. ASCII set properly. Did I set that to, let's go back here. BT220 ports. 9600 is fine. Hit F12. Save will be all. Enter F12. Terminal. I mean, if you can't see the redraw of top, what's the point in using top? Let's be honest here. So yeah, couple resistors, new battery, a little bit of love, and working Wyse55 terminal that'll now remember my terminal settings as I back out of it and go back in. And that is being driven by the down here, the Sun Ultra 40. Through a keyspan serial adapter. You can see it flickering away down there. So it's not like I'm going for super fancy here. So here she goes, just flickering away. Now I can SSH to my web server in style and enjoy a warm green glow of a CRT. Alright, hope you all enjoyed that. Bye. So, I just was doing the editing and I realized that I didn't show what I fixed. So when you first set up GT2Y for your Linux machine, it's been years. Apparently serial consoles, I forget, don't have a way of telling the geometry to the remote side. So Ubuntu at least was assuming like 25 lines or 25 rows, whereas this can do like 43, I think? I don't remember, but 40 something. 40 and something below 5. So if I boot this thing up, boop, and see, it's not screaming at me because it has a memory battery now, and it's happy. And that makes me happy that it's happy. and then I'm going to log in real quick and get to the console. Not showing you my super secret username, but STTY, rows 43, columns 80, and now we can fill the whole screen with beautiful CRT goodness. Now up here, this is actually a room for a status bar that I have turned off because I do not want it to burn into the CRT. A lot of times you'll see these after they've been used for years or left on, you'll have a little burn in up there, and I want to make this last as long as I can, so things that aren't going to be changing on the display are not going to be sitting there. Anyhow, there's a wonderful green screen, Wyse55 that's been restored, and I just wanted to show the setting of serial length on Ubuntu in the event somebody else is wanting to do the same thing. It is sort of nice using this keyboard and doing. I will say, if I didn't mention it, VT100 emulation settings worked better than VT220. The cursor keys were not behaving properly without VT100. So VT220 was not wanting to work with the cursor keys.